Hey everybody, welcome back to Beer Time with Big Bird. I, as always, am your host, that big bird looking fellow they call Colin, courtesy of the Salt the Streets podcast. If you are new here, consider this your second welcome. If the title of the show didn't give it away, this is the incredibly complex and convoluted show where once a week I sit down, drink a beer, talk about it, and then talk about whatever else is on my mind that you could do in the beer-related world. Coming up on this week's episode, the sun's out in the Pacific Northwest, which means my mind is thinking camping, which also means I'm thinking about beers that you can take camping, how you can do it, and all that fun stuff. So, without any further ado, let's go find out what's on tap today, shall we? All right, so welcome back, everybody. Today, we are diving into yet another Rainy Days beer, which is fast becoming one of my favorite local breweries. I think we've talked about it before. Started out of a guy's garage, so on and so forth. Many years later, they have a fantastic little brew facility and a tasting room that I have kind of started to enjoy on a semi-weekly basis, especially on today's days. It's a great place for me to go unwind after work on Friday. Grab a beer or two while I do some show prep for the epic Salt the Streets podcast, episode 128. If you guys have not heard, there's been some rather earthquakey type news in the world of politics and the social goings-on of the world, but I'm going to save that for tomorrow because that is not what we do here on Beer Time with Big Bird. Today, we're going to crack open... Ooh... Oh, there's a little foam, too. This is a Hefeweizen that I might have had a little earlier today. I don't know why, but it might have something to do with the sun finally coming out in the Pacific Northwest. The day, no shit, the day, the official day of summer was like, boom, okay, sun's out now. Your cold, wet, miserable spring is over, and the sun's out, and we're going to have a heat wave this weekend. So, yay to that. But along with that comes the sun, comes some weird desire to have some wheat beer for some reason. And so I got into this Hefeweizen today, and it was so good, I wanted to share it with y'all. And of course, every time, it almost never fails. Look at the giant head on this thing that I poured. Like a dum-dum. We're just going to let that simmer for a second because I don't know why. I will say this. With these giant crowlers, you may notice the size of my hand. I am indeed a big bird, and I got mitts for days. I can palm a basketball. That's how big my hands are. It takes no skill. It's just a matter of how giant your hands are. So this is a big can. Call these a crowler. It's like, how many fluid ounces are there in this bad boy? I'm not really sure. They got to have it on here somewhere, right? Maybe. Either way, shout out Rainy Days. You guys always make fantastic beer. We've done a couple of them on the show so far. We've never done the Hefeweizen. Like I said, the sun's out, and for some reason, it felt like a good idea to have a Hefeweizen today, and it was a really good idea. So we're going to start there. It's a nice, generally typical looking Hefeweizen, nice and yellow, very cloudy and creamy. You're going to get that probably from the wheats that are in the malt profile. See, this is why I think I like a Hefeweizen. The smell is just so warm, but refreshing at the same time. There's some citrus notes in there. Oh, look, it's been a while since we got the old schnoz in the suds there. But really just warm, embracing, kind of spicy, but not too overly so. And when the sun is shining and you're sitting out in the sun, in the beer garden, it's a really good deal. So that's enough foreplay. Let's get into this thing. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Just as good as it was a couple hours ago. Light on the palate. Refreshing. Citrus. Just a haze of citrus, but not like a hoppy citrus. More of like a... You can get some citrus notes and hops, but this is more of like a nice orangey, lemony type of citrus, which I think really, really, really sells it for when the sun is shining. And yeah, we got ourselves a heat wave coming in this weekend. And the studio, Salt the Street Studio, which you are now in, is it's not really a great place for air ventilation. So I think it's going to be in the 90s tomorrow, which is, you know, for those of you who live in the South or even on the East Coast, 90s is like, man, what are you complaining about? But this is Pacific Northwest. We don't do this often. So this is it's going to be a hot one. It's going to be a scorcher. I predict the humidity will be pretty high, which again is not that typical for out here, but I will say, if this afternoon was any indication, this beer will help ease the heat wave that is approaching. But while I was at the brewery today, I was doing some note taking for our big show tomorrow, episode 128, Salt the Streets Podcast. Be there, be square, right here on YouTube tomorrow at noon. If you want to join in the live chat, we had an amazing turnout last episode, and we hope to see everybody back there again tomorrow, particularly because of the things we're going to be talking about. The Supreme Court has been doing what they do and dropping some very, very heavy opinions, so we're going to be discussing those. But like I said earlier, we're not going to talk about those today because that's not what this show is about. We're going to talk about the beer, and what it really did was while I was sitting there and I was note-taking and I was hanging out in the sunshine, sipping on this fantastic Hefeweizen, I started to think about the future camping trips that are coming up because that's what you do. Usually we try to get some in the springtime, but this spring has generally been between the 50s and 60s, wet, miserable, overcast, and just garbage. So I'm very, very excited to hurry up and get out in the woods very, very soon. The woods are lonely, and they need some company. And so we're going to do that. But it got me thinking about how one can bring, say, like this delicious Hefeweizen from a local brewery out into the woods with your friends. Now, first things first, we need to talk about what camping is, because there's multiple different types of camping. There is the easiest form, and I would probably say, Chad, would you say it's the most common form, car camping? It's the easiest way. You just find a place, you drive out in the middle of the woods on some back roads, and you find a cool campsite next to a river, and then there you go. That's all you need. That's the easiest way to do it. Obviously, all you got to do is have a cooler full of your favorite bevies. Hopefully, this Hefeweizen from rainy days might do you. But other than that, you got to get more creative. Me and my brother, when we go hunting, which is basically just backpacking in the backcountry with a gun, searching for with a purpose. You know, it gets more difficult, because how in the world do you get away from the overall liquid volume problem with a beverage like beer? And there's really no way to get around it. So you need to kind of make the decision of, you need to look at where you're going to go, how far you're going to go, how packed your pack is going to be, and how many beers you can throw in there. I've gone on multiple camping trips, backpacking trips, just for an overnight or two, where you definitely add some extra weight in your pack because you want to bring a six-pack with you. And the six-pack probably weighs, I don't know, 5 to 6 pounds, depending on what size cans you're bringing, which is a lot of weight if you're going to be trekking, say, like fucking 8 miles into the woods. You know, if you're going to do a few miles, you could probably get away with more, but then you're just sacrificing volume, and nobody's going to be carrying that shit in their hands while they're going through the woods either. So, you know, the question and the decision must be made about how much beer you want to take and how you're going to do it, how many people are there. I've done that before, where you get a decent group of folks together, and you kind of get exponential gains at that point. One person carrying it, it definitely depends on how much they weigh, as my brother would say. But the weight distribution gets exponentially less so when you're talking one person carrying a six-pack versus, say, 4 people bringing 3 or 4 beers with them. All of a sudden, those numbers add up pretty quick, and you got yourself a weekend's worth of beers. So it's something to discuss with whoever it is that you're going to go camping with. If you're one of those, you know, if you're a family, Odds are you're not going to be doing a bunch of trekking miles and miles into the backcountry, so a car camp is probably your best situation, in which case, just remember to fill the cooler up before you leave. Generally speaking, when I go out into the backcountry, and when I say backcountry, you got to understand, this is not like I'm taking a couple miles in. This is like I'm going to go to the place where motor vehicles are not allowed, and ideally I don't see another human body, and there isn't a human body within miles of where I'm at. And that gets a little different, generally speaking. If we're going to bring alcohol into the woods at that point, we're distilling, and we're going smaller volume, which means we're going like liquor in a flask, because for one, you save on space, two, you save on weight, and you get all the bang for the same amount of buck. Other than that, I don't really know what you're going to do. It's just a personal question, but I fully anticipate in the future bringing a couple crowlers with me, strapped to my back, hauling ass into the woods, getting around, I don't know, 5-6 miles. I don't think I want to haul any beer in after that. And, you know, kicking back, ideally next to a river or a lake, maybe doing some fishing, and just soaking up the sunshine and enjoying nature in all its splendor while I sip and libate off of nature's bounty, aka a beer. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. This has been a great show. I hope everybody had a good time. I had a good time. Happy Friday, I might add to everybody. Enjoy the weekend. We got a powerful sunny weekend coming up in the Pacific Northwest. So I hope if you're in the area, you're taking full advantage of that, because this is damn near the first good weekend we've had since springtime rolled around. And well, actually, spring has come and gone, and we didn't really have any good weekends. So first weekend really of summer, other than last weekend. So get out there, have some fun, enjoy the sun, and I will see you next week.
Welcome to the south of the streets, coming at you